Hello everyone, welcome to Gelvin Valley, created by Wild West for our enjoyment. And for Farming Simulator 15, we are in the middle of wrapping some bales clear up here on top by the radio tower. At least that's kind of what I was last doing. And just trying to make my way around the field, it appears, as we grab these bales. They are, not only are they sticking to the ground, kind of where we left them, but, boy, they grabbed it. I wonder if Wes intended us, maybe we would mow kind of right around where the lip of the hill is, and we kind of just took things way over the side down and are doing crazy things with it. But, desperate times and negative cash call for desperate measures. So as long as this puppy keeps putting these down gently, I think I'll just continue to lay them out here in the field, and we'll be coming in here later to pick them up, with the trailer. Actually, I should be hauling here. Yeah, I've been kind of dropping them where I'm at, but let's see how it does for one kind of on the slope. I'll get all lined up here with the next one. Boop, just close enough to grab it. Alright, let me see what it does. Alright, yeah, it seems to be, there we go. Oh, this is craziness. So, last time I had a little chat with you all about how I'm at my better half. So, I also, between then and now, I took time to watch a video Russell prepared for me that had some things in it, and I'm kind of wondering how to answer him best, if I should make a video on it or just send it to him via text. Not that anybody listening cares about all that, but it's really cool to receive a video from a friend. It was made just for you, and so that's kind of been on my mind here this evening. There's been just a number of things on there of mutual interest, I've thought about commenting on. But for this, I think for tonight, I went back to something I once recorded on my, on a word processor document that I have, kind of where I keep all ideas and thoughts on things to talk about in here, things that maybe I could, I don't know, talk about for half an hour. So I was looking at one here, and I highlighted something called almost accidents. And by almost accidents, I mean, and maybe there's a better term for it, where something bad happens, someone gets hurt, and you were somehow close by. It could have been you, but it wasn't. If that kind of makes sense. I remember many years ago there was a really terrible earthquake in California. California gets lots of earthquakes down there, and it was just nasty. I don't remember what the rating was on the Richter scale or whatever that's called, but it was so bad that it collapsed bridges and that kind of thing, to where if you were driving on that bridge and it toppled with you on it, you very likely lost your life, or at the very least, your car was damaged or whatever you were driving over. Those are things you just, who plans for that? I drive every day to work, and I go under an overpass that has, the state motorway, as, maybe other countries would call it, or the interstate, as we would call it here. Big, heavy concrete, And there's been occasionally I'll think about it. It's like, what would I do if, because occasionally the cars will stop or whatever, and you're stuck underneath this heavy concrete bridge of an overpass, and it's like, what would you do if it all of a sudden collapsed on you? And I guess there ain't much you could do. You just, them are the cards you're dealt, and you would obviously die, most likely. So that's what I mean, though, by an almost accident. There was, you take the California earthquake, there surely were people who were the last cars over. And then there were people who were fortunate enough to see it happen in front of them, and they could slam on the brakes or whatever, and they weren't impacted. So, just one of those things that, when you see it happen, it just kind of gives you the shakes, because, it's like, one more step, and that could have been me or whatever. Hey, is this our last bale? It may be. Yeah, I only leased this thing for an hour or so. Let's see, do I have all of the dots? Are they all white ones? I almost think there's another bale off somewhere. Trying to see, was there one in the brush over here? Or where is it? I'm almost positive I see one on here. Right here. Isn't see where my mouse is? Is that a bale? That's gotta mean there is something here. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, let me ditch this one. Oh, I think maybe I see it. Is that it right here? No, I guess I don't see it. Well, interesting. Oh, that was hiding in there. I didn't even see it, and I drove nearly over the top of it. Alright, well, glad I found it. Glad I have a little bale finder on here to help me locate those. This thing is so stick to it, it just kind of lays in the position it came out. Alright, I'll take this up to the... Probably if I'm unloading on the go, it's gonna do some silly thing, so... Alright. Let me pick this up, fold her up, and we, folks, are taken to the road. So probably all of us at one point or another have had an almost accident. And again, I'm probably using the wrong term for it. I don't know what it should be called. But you hear stories every now and again of a plane that crashes. And of course, there's unfortunate people that are on it and they lose their lives or go through a horrific experience. And then you'll maybe hear of people, oh, I had a premonition and I had a dream that the plane was going to crash, so I chose not to get on it, and look, it crashed. Or maybe there's someone who missed their flight, or for whatever reason missed it. Or maybe, we had here in the U.S. a terrible terrorist incident, way back in 2001. I say way back, that's a quarter of a century ago. Seems like it wasn't that long ago. And just what if that was your flight, that was going to be hijacked and you missed it? Or maybe you were sick and you worked in New York in one of the towers, and that particular day, for whatever reason, you couldn't go to work. Maybe you were caught in traffic, running late, and by the time you got there, all hell was breaking loose, as they say. Those almost accidents, and even if you were in the towers and maybe you were under the impact zone and you were able to get down and out. But, there was, for example, a last person who got out of the towers. I mean, you just know that there was a last person who got out before they fell. And, that's another almost accident, if you will. So, just with good fortune, the benevolence of God and keeping you from some horrible accident, we know those things happen. And when they do, I mean, I don't know if you're like me, if you've had some of those happen to you. It isn't until later, a lot of times, when it's seems like late at night, everything's calm, and you start thinking about all the things that could have gone wrong. And it's like, wow. And I mean, it's just your mind can play tricks on you, and some of those, at least mine does. So, but I don't know, maybe I'm just an overthinking type person, or who knows. I probably spend overly much time thinking about that kind of thing anyhow. Some of the things, I've never missed a plane that crashed or anything quite like that. So, but I imagine, maybe the term I'm looking for is close call. We probably surely all have some type of close call in life, and I think I've shared some of them before on here, but I thought I would dedicate an episode kind of to it. One close call that I had was on the farm. I think I've mentioned before, I worked on Lone Oak Farms when I was a kid, and helped with usually the summer work, mainly the harvest season and some of the fall as the crop was brought in, and helping with that side of things. So one of the things I was asked to do one morning is clean the rock traps in the combines before we started the day combining. And I don't know if every combine has something. I imagine they have something equivalent or whatever. But in the John Deere's, they have a rock box. That's what we called it, where material coming in the header up the feeder housing just before. And these were conventional threshing mechanisms. Just before we go into the cylinder, there was a rock box kind of underneath where heavier objects like rocks or sticks could fall into, and you would avoid going through the cylinder and messing up all the teeth in there and causing worse problems. Getting a rock stuck in there would be a pretty nasty thing. Possibly could damage it so bad you'd be shut down for the day. So it's good to keep those boxes cleaned out. And it's amazing, you could be operating the combine and never realize what kind of crud you were picking up off of the field. And the grass seed, that we were harvesting, it was all typically in windrows. And let me get this unwound. Turn off my stuff. It was typically in windrows, so the windrow was probably, I don't know, 8 feet across, 6 to 8 feet across ish, maybe not quite that. And it could vary between a foot and a half thick if it was fluffy. Sometimes it was flatter and you had to kind of pick it up out of the ground or whatever. But, I should have been speeding to the next one. So sometimes, there could be things hiding in the windrow that you didn't know were there. Although a lot of times you could see it because, we use the pickup belt header on the combine to harvest this stuff. So you would think you would see a lot of it as it kind of came up into the combine. But that wasn't so. You wouldn't believe what we collected in these boxes. Anyways, I digress. I was asked to go underneath and clean these out. And on Lone Oak at that time, we had 3 combines. And so I went into one, and I did the second one, and let's see. I almost think I was on the second one. Um, well, no, I think maybe I did two. I'm not remembering entirely. I may have done two, while the machines were off and everything. You go under the air, you open a hatch. It's really dusty, filthy, dirty. I was a low man on the totem pole, so that's why I got the pleasure of doing this job. Um, so I was under there. Then on the third one, I went under there and I heard the machine start up. Someone was up above. They started the combine. And I remember thinking, I'm down underneath there. This is under the feeder housing. You are between, in order to get there, you have to crawl under the header, under the front tires, the big old tires. Everybody's seen a combining cane. And you are in between the tires, kind of underneath the machine. And when you open the rock box, you are looking directly into the cylinder of the combine, where everything gets threshed. So I heard the combine start up, and I thought, well, no problem. The boss sent me under here, so he knows I'm down here, cleaning the rock box. So I just kind of continued on my way. I opened it up down there. I was pulling things out. Some of it falls out. Some of it you gotta, reach up in there and grab. Well, then all of a sudden I heard the machine grind a little bit or whine, kind of like the sound. It's a telltale sound. You know it when you hear it, when, someone was putting the separator in gear. And when I say separator, I mean the whole cylinder. It's the whole combine except for the header. Everything is engaged. And often in the mornings, we do that, shake the dust out, make sure everything's turning, you don't hear anything squealing or whatever. And my hands are in this rock box. I'm up in the cylinder, and I was just lucky that my hands weren't up in the cylinder bars themselves. Really, there'd have been no need for them to be, because anything heavy, rock-wise or other, should have fallen below the cylinder. But still, I distinctly remember looking up in there and seeing that thing spin. And granted, it was in idle, but it's still, it would have killed me. There's no doubt about it. That would have, if my hands would have been in there, would have either hacked them off or pulled me in, and I don't know if it had taken my whole body in. But anyway, even seeing that, and this is where, being a kid like I was at the time and not using my head as well as I should have got my butt out of there when they turned it on to make sure that whoever was sitting up there knew that I was down there. But I didn't. I just assumed they knew I was down there. And then they turned the separator on, and still I took time to fasten the hatch so that the rock box would be closed, going out into the field. And then I think I crawled out in front of one of the big tires, to get out from underneath. And I remember my boss, one of my uncles, chewing me out because he didn't know I was down there. And, it's like, well, you told me to go clean it out. Well, he either thought I was done or he intended one of the other machines, maybe not all of them, I don't know. Just a classic miscommunication. I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming myself or the person that was up there. It's just one of those things, that can happen on a farm. And then, if something happens and someone gets hurt, everybody says, oh, that's terrible, that was an accident. Well, when you follow the trail of what happened, you wonder, well, what could have been done to prevent what happened. Hey, are we done, folks? I believe we are. So, let me put that together, and we are headed on the road. We still got plenty of time to get down there. And hold on a sec, do I have a trailer? I got these trailers. But I don't have I don't have a flatbed, so anywho, I'll be renting one of those, probably only for an hour, because that's all I needed. But, alright, head down over the hill again. So anyway, that was a really close call for me personally, and at the time, I thought about it many times later. It's like so many things could have gone wrong, and drastically changed my life, the life of my uncles, my cousins who worked there, let alone the particular day's harvest. Yeah, just so thankful it didn't happen, but that's one of my almost accidents. Another almost accident happened when I was a kid at home, probably sixth grade-ish, just in the preteen years, maybe 11 years old, somewhere around there, maybe fifth grade, I don't know. Anyway, it was in the middle of summer. My dad had a few cattle, and in those days, he didn't have the lower property that he has now, that he has made into hay. So, but with the cattle, since we only had 4 acres of pasture or whatever it was, we didn't have enough grass, for the cattle to eat, especially over winter. So each summer we would go get a load or 2 of hay and put it in the barn, stock up for winter, that kind of thing. Well, at that point in my life, I was, don't we all go through these phases? At that time, for whatever reason, I was fond of carrying around a pencil and a pad of paper so I could write stuff, with whatever I was doing. And it was all the nonsense of a kid. And so we went out to the truck. My dad was hollering at us, me and my brothers, to come out, get in the truck, because we were going to go, and he needed the help to haul the bales and all that. So I was already running late, getting out there, and so I run out there, and he sees that I have this pad of paper and stuff in my hands. And he chews me out. He says, "Go put that in the house. I don't want you bringing that along," whatever he said. And I was like, okay. So I hopped out of the truck and started booking it towards the house. Well, on the way to the house, this is where, you just never know the providence of God taking care of things, even through stupid things that kids do, like I did. While I was going back to the house, I looked to the left, and my little sister, she was probably, was she 3 years old? I don't remember how old she was. She was standing right in front of the truck that my dad was sitting in waiting for me. And in some ways, it's a wonder he didn't pull forward to take off and get closer to the house, where, all right, return vehicle. It's a wonder he didn't choose to do that. He very easily could have. But when I saw her there, I hollered at him and went over and picked up my little sister so she wouldn't have got run over by the truck. Because my dad couldn't see her over the hood of the truck. That's how close she was standing to it. I remember just seeing her standing there, staring straight up at it. Now, maybe if the truck would have started to move, perhaps she would have gotten out of the way. I don't know. I mean, who can tell, Where's the trailers at? Maybe it's up in the hay stuff. Baling technology. Ah, ha, ha, ha. I don't know what colors I've had before. Here's this. I'll rent for an hour. Bada bing, bada bong. Alright, let's make some money finally. Rental contract. Oh, I see. So there isn't any way to really prove it, but the way I look back on it is like, if I hadn't been doing something stupid right then, which caused my dad to chew me out, which then caused me to get out of the truck and see my little sister there. If I would have hopped into the truck and been entirely ready to go, my father could have just taken off, run over my little sister, and I don't even want to think how that, would change my life. I guess I wouldn't know any better. That would have been a terrible thing to come to terms with. I can't imagine my poor dad having to go through that. I've heard of other parents who have run over their kids, in a car, and I can't think of anything more crushing, than to harm an innocent when you're not intending to, or any of that. But I mean, probably most here could imagine just how terrible that could have been. And now I think of my little sister. She's a mom, she has a husband and 4 children, and just is a wonderful woman. And how different things could have been were it not for an almost accident. I had another almost accident on the farm in Lone Oak when I worked up there. During the spring, or late spring, they also put up a bunch of hay. They had some cattle down in a canyon property that they had. And so each year, actually, if you've ever played the Lone Oak map, the grass down by the pond, just to the north and to the east of it, those were typically hay fields. So in the spring time of the year, we'd be down there cutting hay and baling it up and hauling it back there. And in those days, I mean, this was just good old hard work with small bales, and because they would feed them by hand, kind of back in the canyon. They don't do it that way anymore. But I can't see my instructions. Why, oh why, does automatic help keep turning off? Okay. Show Fleagle help. Number 5. Load products. Load product type. Oh, I see. I need to hit X. Square, straw round, hay round, grass round, silage round. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing, right? So, okay. Alright, I'll head out here. And I think hit B. Yeah, it's gonna pick them up. Oh, I gotta hit the B every time I go out here. Actually, what is it that auto loads? It's unload side, J loading type, start automatic loading. Alright, now I can just pick them up and drive. I think I gotta be careful. Oh yes. For some reason, it doesn't let you do it when you're driving too fast. Whatever. It's like they'll only let you cheat part way. And this is a long trailer too, so this is going to be plenty, I believe, to haul in everything. So I doubt we will fill the whole trailer. There's 2 more. Anyway, we did this haying at Lone Oak, and some of it was hauled to a barn they had out on the canyon property, like I say, but they also had cattle up at the main barn. You know, the big red barn that's on the Lone Oak map, if you've played it. Hay was loaded kind of on the south end of the barn. Let's see, is that kind of how it appears? I think that's how it shows up in the game. That's on the south end of it. Anyway, we would open the door kind of up on top, and I think in those days, I don't know that we had a conveyor to help haul it up. I think most of it we just threw up from the truck itself. So we'd back up close, and then one of us would be up on top of the load, and this time here it was my turn, and to loosen the ropes we used to come along kind of up top to hold the bales on there. So I went up top, I undid the come along, and I was walking to the back of the load, to get the ropes off so we could unload it. Well, I wasn't paying enough attention, and the way we loaded these trailers in the field, we admittedly didn't tie the bales together as much as we would if we were stacking them by hand on the truck. We used a front loader, and it would tend to load the bales kind of all facing the same way. They tried to tie it a little bit, but I went to the back and I stepped kind of on the bale on the edge, and it went down clear to the bottom. I don't know if there's any tie-ins. And I had a nice quick ride to the ground. Basically fell off the top of the truck. I don't know what the distance is for the fall. It's probably at least 10 feet. And like I say, the truck was parked close to the building, so there wasn't that much room at all. And I know maybe the barn looks pretty decent in the Lone Oak app, but it had red tin on it. Not every piece was always firmly attached to the shed. And then at the base, there's a concrete foundation, and there was these pipes sticking up out of the ground. I don't know what the pipes were there for, but they were just there sticking up out of the ground. But here's the almost accident, falling down. Obviously when something like that happens and you lose your footing, there's the bell. You lose your footing, you're grasping at air. My arms were flailing, trying to grab something, and all I hit was hay. I didn't even hit the truck bed on the way down. I didn't hit the hitch on the truck. I didn't hit the foundation. I didn't get nailed by any of the tin, which would have sliced my arms. I didn't hit any of the pipes. I kind of landed right beside a couple pipes, and there was sand down there. So really, I landed in soft sand, and I could have been so bunged up from falling off the truck with everything that was there to hit. But I didn't. And I just feel so fortunate, it could have been way worse, than it was. And so, I maybe need to continue this topic in another one since my time is already run out. But how about you? What kind of almost accidents have you had in your life, whether caused by you, caused by someone else, that you look back on and realize that if something would have happened, it could have been very, very bad, totally changing your life or even ending it. So anyway, I think I'll leave everybody for now on this. Thank you so much for coming along and listen to me babble away here, loading a few lousy bales. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.